Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Resto Mod Daisy, and tonight we have a different approach for you. We're not showing you a gun that we built and we're sending back home. No. What we're going to do is answer an inquiry we got in a comment section on one of our previous videos. The viewer has a Model 27 and he's mystified as to how to take it apart. Well, that's kind of understandable because the Model 27 Daisies are old guns. They were manufactured in 1927 to 1932, so we're talking really ancient Daisies. And they are unique in regards to their anchoring system. The Model 27 does not have a spring anchor, so it can be confusing if you're trying to figure out how to take the gun apart. What we have for you tonight are two distinctly different Model 27s. The gun down here, by the way, which is Richard's old gun, is a 500 shot Model 27. Let's back out and show the viewership the difference in the length. You'll notice that the gun on the bottom of the screen here is slightly shorter than the gun on top. And that shortness is the difference between a 1,000 shot Model 27 and a 500 shot Model 27. Now, both of these guns are unique in that they do not have a spring anchor. We brought the old 105 cutaway out to illustrate this. You'll notice they all have rear sights, but the rear sight on the 105 serves as an anchor for the mainspring. And you can see that there through the little side port. That's how the spring is actually energized. So the 105B has a spring anchor. The Model 27 has a sliding spring block. And I'm going to show you what one of those look like in just a minute. But as a result of having a sliding spring block, it does not have a spring anchor. So it comes apart the same, yet differently than the 105B or later Daisy Red Riders. So let's take a look. Let's look at the roll stamps before we get going. And this is going to be tough to make out. It is a Daisy 500 shot Model 27. All right, and the one just above it is a little easier to see. It is also a Daisy 1,000 shot Model 27.
Love it.
And these are both Plymouth, Michigan guns because they're ancient beyond days. And this is a 105B, current production piece. This is the famous cutaway gun that we cut away so you could see the innards of it to help explain operational principles. All right, now, how do you get your Model 27 taken apart? Well, let's keep in mind that 27 to 32, these guns were basically used to shoot lead BBs, which were a little bit different from the current BBs, the steel BBs we all shoot today. So I want to show you something that's kind of unique to the guns. In the shot tubes, there's one difference in these that help you figure out if this was a lead firing BB gun or a steel firing BB gun. On a standard steel firing BB gun, there will be a hole here. And there will be a slot cut in this bonnet, and it will run down to another hole here, and there will be a spring that acts as a retaining spring for the BBs in the chamber. The lead guns, this was just a divot, a little dimple in the steel, and that held the lead shot in place until the air tube hit it and knocked it down the bore and gave it a pulse of air. Off it goes to its target. So if you run into one of these shot tubes, an older style, notice the difference in the way the cup is built. Serrated edges, it inserts into the shroud, not over the shroud like the bottle cap guns, and lacking a hole, more than likely it was set up for lead BBs. An important note. All right, so we're going to take the little gun out of the way. We're going to grab the big gun because it hasn't got any BBs in it. How do you take them apart? Well, like all Daisies, the first thing you got to do is pull the buttstock. You got to get it out of the way. So we're going to flip this over before we get started. We're going to take this bolt off, or this nut off, the lever bolt, just to make that easy when we get to it. So job one. Let's keep in mind that these are not original screws. Whenever I get these guns in, they come in with slot tips, and they are really difficult to work with. I usually pop them off and put current production nuts and bolts back in them because of like too weight. Yeah, and because Phillips are so much easier to work with. They don't strip out, they don't slip off, they don't mar the surface of the gun through an incident or an accident. So take the stock bolt out first, then take the top stock screw out. Easy enough. Bam. out it comes. Slide the buttstock assembly away, and you'll notice it has a trigger return spring. You can leave that there. Okay, now we're going to set these pieces off. And the next thing we're going to do is, just like one on a Red Ryder or a Buck or a 1999 or a Daisy long rifle or a 111, we're going to pull the lever bolt out. And it's going to be a while. This is a cast iron lever as well. So, there we go. Because it has a sliding spring block, it's under a bit of tension. You see how it popped out there? Anyway, that's a cast iron lever. A little fatter than the aluminum levers that are common to the later guns. Different profile on the nose because it has a different type of job to do. Put that aside. Now we're going to take the trigger out because that's got to come out to get the guts out. Otherwise, you can't slide the piston assembly out if the trigger is still in the gun. So take that out. Easy peasy. Now, here's something cool about the Model 27s. You'll notice that on the 105B, the current production Red Ryder, and most every gun built in Plymouth, Michigan, Rogers, Arkansas, that's a one-piece receiver assembly. Well, the Model 27 is a little bit different. It's actually a two-piece receiver assembly. So we are going to take it apart simply by pulling this bolt out. And once we do that, you'll be able to see into the guts of the machine a little better. And you'll understand how it is different from the Red Ryders and Bucks. So there's the outer receiver shroud. See, isn't that cool? How about that? Tells you where to put the oil. You oil here. You don't oil there. You oil here. All right. Now, top of the receiver unit. And here is our plunger assembly. Now, what's holding the plunger assembly in place? Well, absolutely nothing.
Oh.
Out it comes. Whoa. Could it be easier? I don't know.
Oh, is that why this is like this?
Right.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Right.
And
this is a sliding spring block. You know why they call it that?
Because it slides with
the spring. Yeah, it slides with the spring. So the idea here is that it is a cock on closing weapon. So when the lever engages, it pulls the whole assembly back until the trigger engages and holds the plunger assembly in place. Then the lever pushes forward and locks in position with the spring block so that the spring is compressed. When you pull the trigger, the plunger flies forward, the air tube taps the BB out of the way, a puff of air shoots it down the tube, and your tin can rattles. Sliding spring block. That is why you don't have a spring anchor in the Model 27s. And that's why a Model 27 is a pretty easy gun to take apart. So keep that in mind. It's a 1927 to 1932 Daisy. So it may have, if it has a shot tube, it may have a lead BB shot tube. And if you're looking for a completely original gun, that's probably what you want. But if you want a gun you can shoot, here's the good news. You can always pull this out because the thread pattern's the same and substitute the current Model 25 spring-loaded magazine and fire regular steel BBs. You don't have to run around chasing after lead BBs if you want to shoot your Model 27. And if you just want to hang it on the wall, hang it on the wall. If you want to shoot it, you can do that. All right, so that is the essentials of taking the gun apart. Now, working on the plunger assembly has been covered many times here in Resto Mod Land. Quite a few times, actually. Probably 50 times out of 250 videos.
No.
So I'm just going to ask you to go thumb through the library. You'll find it. Over and sliding.
See? It slides.
It slides. It's a spring block. It's a sliding spring block. And, of course, the appropriate lever for the sliding spring block.
Are you putting it back together? Or just
I don't know. You think we need to put it back together?
As well.
On camera?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Can you do that?
Yeah. And let me get my pen.
I mean, kind of, right? If you can't, it's not a big deal. I mean,
oh, no.
we can do a whole other video on it if you want. But...
No, let's go ahead and stretch this out for all we can get out of it.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, man. Get the views.
All right. To reinstall, it is important that your air tube clears. Let's see. We'll show you down here. I don't know if you can look. See the little hole.
You can't move it.
Okay. I'm not. There, you see a little hole?
All right.
Okay. You got to get that air tube through that little hole. So you're going to need some help. It's got to have some help. Can't do it by itself.
All right.
Which is why we use the thin piece of wire, i.e. the thin piece of wire. So you slide this into the air tube, By the way, this is an overbore 7/64 thier tube. The seals have been replaced. The leather seals that originally were in the gun, not this set, but a set just like it, were pretty worn out, pretty much like this set. So we subbed in a new air tube and current production Model 25 seals. The gun right here runs about 312 when it's got a Cobalt 327 in it. This is I believe a Red Ryder spring, because it's a real bear to cock with a Cobalt. So anyway, put your guide wire in your air tube. Then you're going to have to fish that down the tube here and get your guide wire so that it goes through the hole, because that will help you get the air tube through the hole. And this is a fiddly bit kind of thing to do. So I'm going to fiddle with it. I normally do this on a bench.
Oh, you're doing so well.
There we go. And then you got to kind of wiggle it in, because it's a brand new set of seals, so they are a bit tight. And then you get that, see this little tab there? See how that, this has to be pointed up.
Yeah.
You want it this flat on the top of the gun. This has got to be where the lever can get to it. So you just take that and you just kind of push it in. Let me get my push-in stick. We may have to tap that a bit. Well, it's not the end of the world.
Well,
It's just the way it is. There we go. I'm hoping we don't, but you never know. Oh, there we go. All right, so just push it. She's set. Pull the wire out of the end. Now, we've got to replace the outer receiver assembly. So you just slide that on, and you line that slot up with the hole. Et voila.
I love it.
And you take your bolt. Am I going through the right side, or do I need to go through the other side? The other side. You take your bolt, you drop it through. And the screws typically come from the left side to the right side. So set that, and that'll secure the lower receiver, the outer receiver, to the barrel shroud. And you can put a nut on there to make sure it doesn't flop off. All right, next job. We're going to drop the trigger back in, but we're going to have to horse around a little bit there, because you want to make sure that these holes are clear. If you'll notice, it's possible to rotate that shroud. See how that blocked that hole? Right there? Yeah. See how it's blocked? Now it's not. So you want to make sure that that shroud's rotated so that you can clear the trigger bolt. All right, then we take our trigger, we slip it in there, and then we drop another bolt through, line it up best we can, check the other side. Then we'll have to rotate back a little bit, it looks like, and set that one home. And that's our trigger installed. So the next thing we're going to do is put the lever in place. Now I may need to use the, we're going to try it without the bench vise, but I may need to use the bench vise, because you got to push it in just a bit. It's under spring tension. Yeah, if you'll hold on to that, let me get that set and get my bolt ready. So a little bit of a push on the back of the sliding spring block.
Oh, you got it. Well, can you get the bolts in? Oh, we need like a third pair of hands.
Grab that little bolt and stick it in.
Oh, jeez, no way, dude. I'm holding the camera too. All right, hold on. All right.
This is why I said, typically, I probably ought to put it in a vise.
Dude, now we're fucking free balls.
Move. All right.
Oh, no. It's under it. Ah! We're a hot mess. Yeah!
All right, so we got that in. Without a vise.
Without a vise. You just need an extra pair of hands if you don't have a vise.
So,
which is the whole point of a vise, is like a pair of hands that's not, not a pair of hands.
It's got a better grip than you do.
I'm
normally.
on a phone, thank you.
I'm just saying, better grip than you, the generic you, not you as an individual.
You're not wrong. I'm not going to even argue that one.
All right, now next, we have our trigger return spring.
Yeah.
And we have to get that lined up on this. See that little bit of metal there? See that little thing?
Pointed it out for us, Professor.
Right there?
All right, yeah.
And that's what that spring's got to go over.
All right.
So, invert it a touch, then eyeball it in place,
Go for it.
and then Bam. You're on it. You're on it.
Love it.
Line that hole up, just like we've lined up the other holes. Seat it. Huh.
No.
This magnet, the miracle thereof.
No matter.
Set that screw. Put the top stock screw in. Stock screw in. Bam, bam, bam. And then let's put a working magazine in.
Ooh.
And we'll bang off a round or two.
Okay.
Toward the target butt. Okay. We'll just let them hear the sound of the power. I want them to see the reverse cocking cycle.
Right.
Now, reverse cocking opens, no problem. Closes, ooh, that's where you got to put the horsepower on. Miss, open, no problem. Close, take some horsepower. And payday. So, the Daisy Model 27, reverse cocker. 1927, 1932, old guns, like any other Daisy, they still work. That's all we got for you tonight, kids. This is Shane Bruce, Rest of My Daisy, signing off.